Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Suhei Mojica, and I am the Community Senior Program Coordinator at San Pablo Economic Corporation. Welcome to the SBA PPP Loan Forgiveness webinar. If you were a beneficiary of the Paycheck Protection Program, and now that this program has ended, you would learn how to apply for PPP forgiveness. As our economy recovers from the pandemic, SBA and San Pablo Economic Development Corporation remains committed to supporting small businesses. You will also get the latest on COVID-19 relief options and additional resources. Before we get started, some housekeeping items. We are recording this webinar for others to watch later. A recording will be available on our website at www.sanpabloedc.org. All participants are muted. Use the Q&A feature if you have a question. Any resources mentioned during this presentation will also be available on our website or on our presenters, our community partners website. We welcome your questions again, so please type them in the Q&A box or in the chat, and we will answer them during and at the end of the webinar. I would like to start by giving you an overview of our business offerings at San Pablo EDC. We help with business development. We connect entrepreneurs and businesses to industry resources to start and grow your business. We identify trustworthy community partners, such as today's presenter, which is the SBA. We provide templates and introductions, again, depending on the needs. What we'll do is we identify your need and then customize solutions. Another of our offering is access to capital. We do offer in-house a non-revolving loan fund, which is designed to stimulate the economic growth in West Contra Costa County through lending to small businesses the capital they need. This funding must support the retention or advancement of current employees or contribute to job creation. Eligible applicants may request loans from a minimum of $1,000 to a maximum of $5,000. Another program that we started this year was the B2B or Back to Business Micro Relief Fund. This program was funded by the City of San Pablo to provide relief to small businesses located in the incorporated City of San Pablo during COVID-19. It provided an unsecured 12-month zero-interest loan to qualified San Pablo businesses, which, up in compliance, is fully forgiven. We also do referrals to community partners when it comes to access to capital. If you are in need of, if we can't help you in-house, we make referrals to partners such as the SBA, SBDC, CDFI, such as Working Solutions, Kiva, Pacific Community Ventures, and much more. Just to, again, some of the other business resources we offer is technical assistance. We also specialize on COVID-19 technical assistance. We offer marketing and promotions such as e-blast, social media, ad share mailers, outreach. We do campaigns such as Shop Local campaigns, Restaurant Week, Plate Friday, Small Business Saturday, national events, Small Business of the Year, just to name a few. And again, we offer virtual workshops such as today's webinar. And once we are able to do in-person events, we do also do mixers, we do business watch, and other network events. We also have membership and sponsorship benefits. If you would like to learn more, you can definitely contact me. I will have my contact information at the end of this presentation. And we also do candidate referrals and OJTs, which is basically on-the-job training subsidies. And basically, it's a federal program that was funded by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA. It lets businesses hire and train skilled workers, and they get reimbursed for their efforts. Employers receive up to 50% of the cost to provide on-the-job training for individuals they hire through the public workforce system. As an employer, businesses benefit from more efficient recruiting, more targeted training, and assistance with training expenses. Again, if you would like more information on this, you can definitely contact us. And again, just lastly, the San Pablo EDC is here to connect you to business resources that can help you start or grow your business. Whether you're a startup or an existing business, our resources will give you everything you need to succeed. We provide the training and resources you need to learn how to start, manage, and grow your business. As you can see in this slide, we have created this roadmap It's available on our website, or you can also reach out to me. It basically makes it as simple as possible to know which steps you need to take in order to open your doors. So having said that, thank you to our partner, Small Business Administration. Our presenter today is Darlene Rios-Rapkin. Darlene is an economic development professional specializing in neighborhood commercial district revitalization. She managed her own consulting firm, Urban Transformation, including, for the last 2 decades, providing services to neighborhoods around the country, including 23rd Street in Richmond and San Pablo. Darlene recently joined the San Francisco Small Business Administration District Office as an outreach and marketing specialist to support businesses navigate this uncertain times and provide resources around all aspects of their operations. Again, this webinar was possible with the help of our wonderful partner, Small Business Administration. We are grateful for their partnership and collaboration with San Pablo Economic Development Corporation. So no further ado, I will have Darlene introduce herself and give you all the information that you guys were looking for to learn today. Darlene, it's all yours. Darlene, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Thank you, Sujay. Okay, thank you so much. Gracias for having me here today to speak to the West County community, to San Pablo. As some of you may know, I live in Richmond. Actually, I'm like 5 minutes away from the San Pablo EDC. So it's really a pleasure to be speaking here to my own community. Is my screen up, Sujay? Is it working? We good?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. So let's start. I'm going to cover a lot of information. It's not letting me move to the next slide. You are screen sharing, but do you know how we would do it?
You should be able to just hit next. Would you like me to share the presentation? Oh, there you go.
There it is. Okay, there it is. It worked there. Okay, so our agenda, there it is. So our agenda today, we're going to be talking about PPP forgiveness, which was the main topic that we want to address. But I want to address all the other COVID relief programs that SBA has to offer and resources and connections, and then we can do Q&A throughout the presentation. The SBA is at a federal level. Okay, so I think those initials, SBA, Small Business Administration, have become synonymous with small business. Then we are fortunate enough to have so many different resources available to small businesses to make sure when they're starting up their business and when they are continuing on to grow. So a lot of the programs that we're going to discuss are funded, like the SBD SME, Small Business Development Center, if you're familiar with it, it is funded by the SBA. So at a federal level, SBA comes in and helps local partners to make sure that there is enough resources for small businesses like yourself to start up and to thrive. So, okay, what I need to do is okay. So where are we with COVID relief programs? To give you an overview, PPP is a program that closed on May 31st. There was a first draw and a second draw PPP loan. And it ended on, it was supposed to have ended on March 31st of this year, but it kept on going while there were still funds. But now it is officially closed and we have moved into the forgiveness portion because it starts off as a loan, but it can become a grant. So I think all of you know that. Some of you may be on here to learn about that. Now, what is still going on is what's called Economic Injury Disaster Loan. That is called EIDL. And those are loans that will still be accepted until the end of this year. Then there is the targeted EIDL advance, which some businesses, particularly a lot of the businesses in our community, may be eligible for some of those loans to become a grant. But you must first apply for EIDL. That gets very confusing. So we'll talk a little bit about it some more. Then there is supplemented targeted advance. another $5,000 grant. But again, you need to apply for EIDL. So everything starts with EIDL, with the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, applying for that as a loan. And then the eligibility for it to become a grant is another part of it. There's also the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, which is for like movie theaters or actors' playhouses or venues that serve community with performances. Maybe like a Los Ensotles might have been one of the ones, they have events there. Those sorts of venues. There's the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which is now closed, but awards are still being made to that. The challenge with the RRF is that right now, more eateries or more food industry organizations applied than there is money available. And then we've had another challenge whereby some businesses have filed a lawsuit regarding the prioritization of underserved businesses. So right now that program is in a little bit in flux. We're waiting to be able to award a lot of the grants for that program. So that's unprecedented, and we can discuss it more with time if anybody wants to get more information on that. Then there is the debt relief program, which is really an extension of the programs that SBA traditionally offers. These are guaranteed loans, such as the 7A loan or the commercial real estate loan. SBA has been ordering debt relief, whereby that you don't have to pay the interest on those loans. And that's going to end, though, on September 30th. Then there is the Community Navigator Program, which is for organizations like the San Pablo EDC or many of the other organizations that we're going to be discussing that are here to serve businesses like yourself. One of the things I really want to emphasize during this presentation is for small businesses to take advantage of these programs that offer you advisors, that offer you connections and advice on functioning as a business. I know that sometimes small businesses like going it alone, but please, please enlist San Pablo EDC, the Contra Costa SBDC, Richmond Main Street, the SCORE, Centro, Renaissance Center as your partner. And there are many resources available. And I know that that can sometimes get confusing, but they are really there to help you navigate being a small business so that anytime you have a question, you have support. So let's go back to some of what the federal government, SBA, is offering. They were offering PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program, debt relief on SBA 7A and 504 and microloans. They've also been offering the EIDL, Economic Injury Loan, and then also, and that can be either a loan or a grant program. And then there's also the RRF or SVOG, all of these acronyms, which I know can get very confusing. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about EIDL. EIDL application deadline is till the end of this year. That is probably the best tool that is available to small business if you need a loan. The use of funds, you can use it any way you'd like for your working capital or for continuation of rent, utilities, or fixed debt. The terms are 3.75% for businesses, it's fixed. It's 2.75% for nonprofits. The eligibility is a qualified small businesses, co-ops, and any sort of organization that has 500 or less employees. Keep in mind that EIDL is there when you're not able to get a traditional bank loan. EIDL is there for small businesses to be able to access capital if you need it immediately. It should be easier to get than a traditional bank loan. So the loan limits is $500,000. You can, if you've already gotten an EIDL loan, you can request to increase your amount. The payments for the loans do not become due till after 24 months from the original date. Those are for the loans made in 2020. And then for the loans in 2021, the first payment is due 18 months from the note date. So there's a lot of relief. That's the whole idea of the program, offering relief. Then targeted advance is for businesses that qualify. And I believe that most of the area in San Pablo would qualify. So if your business is located in San Pablo, you are likely eligible for Target Advance, which is up to $15,000 in grant funding. But you need to apply for the traditional EIDL loan first. And small businesses may be declined and still get the grant. So there's the beauty of it. You might get declined. You might get refused an EIDL loan, but you may still get the grant. You don't need to submit any additional paperwork and you might still get the grant. I really believe that this administration is trying to make it easier for underserved businesses, and that is a lot of San Pablo and West County, to be eligible for grants to help small business. So we just really need you. The fact that you're here on this call today means that you are aware, and the fact that you're here means that we want you to be eligible for some of these resources that the SBA is offering. So to talk a little bit more about EIDL Advance, it's only for small, it's in low income communities, have suffered greater than 30% economic loss. You have 300 or fewer employees, which is probably most of the businesses in San Pablo, unless maybe you're the casino or as such. Most businesses are small businesses. 75% of all businesses in the country are 300 or fewer employees. So if you meet a targeted EIDL Advance, you may get up to $10,000 or $15,000. So I'm going to move on to the next program. So you need to have tax returns. This is one of the things we want to always emphasize. File tax returns, because for any program, federal program, you need to have been filing, doing taxes. Okay, I'm not going to go into these details, but this presentation is now available to the San Pablo EDC, and they can share it with you if you need, or I can refer back to it if there's a question on it. So you see in this presentation, I go a little bit more into depth. One of the things I want to mention to you is that I know that small businesses are getting very impatient because it is taking the SBA a long time to process a lot of these applications. And sometimes what I see is people submitting more than once, because you can go online to apply. Please only submit once. It actually gums up the system and makes it more complicated. But there are ways for you to get information on what you're applying for. One is to call the SBA. I'm going to be giving you my number so that you can contact me, but also connect with San Pablo EDC or with any of the many resources that we're going to discuss, so that you have a partner that's helping you apply for these products. Maybe it's the first time you've applied for this sort of help. We want you to cross your T's and dot your I's correctly. So make sure you work with an advisor to help you apply for these things, because there's a lot of detail in this. So we're here to help you. So there's the Supplemental Targeted Advance. That is yet another program. So you may have gotten the $10,000 grant, and you may get an additional $5,000 grant, but you've got to apply for EIDL, and then you will receive a notice from the SBA letting you know that you qualify. And if you're in the low income area, which I believe most San Pablo businesses are, you will be eligible. Any questions at this point, Sujay, or are we good to keep on going?
No questions so far. So yes, we're good to go.
So if you have a question, Sujay, because sometimes I may speak too quickly, or something's coming up for you, let me know, please, because I want to make sure that I'm clear.
Most definitely, yes.
Okay, so we're going back to the same thing, located in a low-income community, and there is a mapping tool that will show you, and I think that Sujay can look this up and find that most of the businesses in San Pablo and most of the area in Richmond does qualify for being located in a low-income neighborhood. And we know that the businesses who are on this call will have suffered greater than 50% economic loss, and have 10 or fewer employees. I would imagine, Sujay, that a lot of the businesses that come to you have 10 or fewer employees, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. So you see how this is a wonderful tool for our community, and it's not being taken advantage of enough. So there is debt relief for certain SBA loans. If there have been any borrowers that had a 7A 504 or microloan borrowers, the SBA has been deferring the interest payments and the payments themselves. Okay. So PPP, that program ended on May 31st, but now there's a forgiveness clause that we're going to talk about. Where we can tell you where it stands right now is that the program provided $798 billion in economic relief to small businesses and nonprofits across the nation. It provided support to over 8.5 small businesses, and 96% of those PPP loans went to small businesses with fewer than 20 employees. Let's hope we don't have another pandemic so that we need to use PPP, but it's good to know that we've been able to have these sort of resources available for our small businesses, available to them. So the forgiveness update, we have a simplified forgiveness form for PPP loans up to $150,000. I want you to be aware that SBA wants to forgive most of these loans. So I think that it really behooves borrowers to complete the form early, because it is taking a long time to process. But we don't want people to get too anxious over the form. We believe that in most cases it will be forgiven as long as you do the application correctly. And that's why we really are going to once again encourage that you work with an SBDC advisor to be able to do this. The borrower has up to 10 months from the time the funds were exhausted to apply for forgiveness. The interest rate, if for some reason you are not forgiven the loan, it's 1% fixed rate. So it's a very low interest rate on portions that aren't forgiven. There's no prepayment fees. The payments begin once the borrower knows how much has been forgiven. So right now, you should start thinking of applying once you've exhausted the fund, you've used up the funds, but you have time. And we are also aware that SBA is taking a long time to process this, so there may even be extensions. I can't say it for sure right now, but there may be extensions. The maturity rate of this loan is very generous, 5-year maturity if it was issued after June 5th of this year, and borrowers can ask for extensions. So I think really what we're trying to say is SBA is trying to be very flexible and generous on this program, because we realized its intention was to provide relief to small businesses that were impacted by COVID. So we will work with everyone closely to make it work, but the details are always still unfolding, and SBA is remaining flexible on this. What is good to know is that the EIDL advances that some of our borrowers may have received are no longer being deducted from the PPP loan forgiveness. So that's an additional fund that people can now tap into. The expenses paid with the PPP loans are tax deductible. That's huge. So work with your bookkeeper to make sure that you take advantage of this. There is a simplified forgiveness application for PPP loans that are $150,000 and less. It's a real quick one-page form. All forgiven PPP loans are not federally taxable income. This is all huge. This is all wonderful. So the terms of forgiveness, the first and second PPP loans made eligible to borrowers for full forgiveness if during the 8 to 24 week covered period following the loan disbursement. So you have to pick an 8 to a 24 week covered period for forgiveness. So the intention is for employee and compensation levels to be maintained so that you can continue to pay your employees. The loan proceeds are spent on payroll costs and other eligible expenses. And how it's divvied up is that at least 60% of the proceeds are spent on payroll costs, and that includes the self-employed for some of you. It includes your payment as well. So when to apply for loan forgiveness? A borrower can apply for forgiveness once all the loan proceeds for which the borrower is requesting forgiveness have been used. If the borrowers do not apply for forgiveness within 10 months after the last day of the covered period, then the PPP loan payments are no longer deferred, and the borrowers will begin to make loan payments to their PPP lender. And this is at a 1% rate. Everyone knows that the PPP loans were made through their lenders, right? That's how they were made, not through the SBA directly. How to apply for loan forgiveness? Contact your PPP lender and complete the correct form. In most cases, you're going to be using 3508S because most of the PPP loans are under $150,000. So
I'm
Pardon?
sorry to interrupt you. There is a question, but I don't know if you're going to be covering this later. Do you want me to?
Go ahead, ask me and then I'll let you know.
So the question is, how long after I submit my loan forgiveness application would I hear about the SBA's decision?
Yes, that is coming up. Having said that, I'm going to let you know that it is taking longer than is forecasted. I think that's the next slide. So that's a great question. I don't know if I'm going to get right here into how to compile the documentation, but this is available, Sujay, and you can share it. You see here that it shows how to compile the documentation.
Yes.
It talks about how to do some of the calculations, but I don't want to get into the weeds right now on this. So I'm gonna, but it's there so that folks can look at it, so that it's available to them. How to compile the documentation is here in this presentation so that you have that information available. You have to submit the forgiveness form and documentation to your PPP lender. Having said that, I know that some of the PPP lenders, here's what's happened. SBA expanded the program so that there were even these fintechs or these online lenders that have participated in the process. And so some borrowers are having a hard time connecting with their lenders to get support and help. So that is once again why I'm going to emphasize that if you're having a hard time connecting with your lender, that you work with your an SBDC advisor or counselor, because they have been prepped and they have been doing these on a regular basis. So they know a lot of the ins and outs. Don't go this alone. Again, I'm going to remind people that because you're independent businesses, you sometimes don't like getting support. This is why you went into business, to be on your own. But we cannot wear all the hats in our business. Some of us are better at one thing or another. So I believe that tapping into some of these organizations that are set up as resources, SBA resources, are pivotal for you to tap into, to have them help you with this process. Here is the answer to that question, that the process is you will submit the forgiveness application to your lender. The lender reviews, and they have up to 60 days to review. And then the lender will upload it to the SBA, and the SBA is to respond, has up to 90 days to respond. Now, it is the lender that notifies the borrower of the forgiveness amount. Okay, so this is how it's supposed to be working. I am here to say to you that it has been taking a little bit longer. And that does not mean that it will disqualify you or that you need to get anxious. I think these are unprecedented times, and the SBA and the lenders have been overwhelmed by the amount of borrowers taking advantage of this program. And it's a good problem to have. We're so glad that so many small businesses have applied for this, but that means that the system has been a little bit overburdened. So all of these timelines have been a little bit off. So it is taking longer, and that doesn't mean that we're going to that it's not going to be forgiven. It just means that it's taking a little bit longer. But even as we speak, the SBA is reviewing some of these processes. If the loans are smaller, we're still looking into how we can accelerate the process. I think what has been really good during these times is SBA, as big an agency as it is attempting to be flexible and revisit some of how it's doing things in order to make it easier for our borrowers to get relief. Now, if the PPP loan is over $150,000, it's taking longer, and then if it sometimes is getting reviewed longer periods. So, and that's good. If the borrower got a bigger loan, it should be reviewed more, looked at, scrutinized more closely. Okay. So the covered period begins on the date the loan was originally dispersed, and then it ends on a date selected by the borrower that is at least 8 weeks following the date of the loan disbursement and not more than 24 weeks after the date of the loan disbursement. So there's, again, that flexibility for the borrower to pick the period that they want the loan to cover. okay? One of the big things is if you got both a first draw PPP and a second draw PPP, those loans cannot overlap. You need to be really careful on making sure that you ensure that the two periods don't overlap. The borrower must have used all of the proceeds from the first draw PPP loan for eligible expenses before the disbursement of the second draw PPP loan. So keep all of this in mind as you're doing this. And again, working with an advisor will help you to make sure that you're doing this correctly, because I think this can get confusing sometimes of how to do it. I'm the first one to admit to you that it can get a little bit confusing. And I think a lot of us did not sign up to be small businesses, to be bookkeepers and accountants. And that may be the part that ends up sometimes confusing you the most. And that's why you want a good bookkeeper to work with you, and you want an SBDC advisor and to work with you to help you with some of these areas that are not your strength. Maybe your strength is making amazing enchiladas or making amazing Italian food, but it's not keeping the books on how to count each ravioli or each mole sauce. So that's why you want to have a bookkeeper and have the SBA at your side to help you with this sort of accounting. So borrowers must retain all the documents in its files for 6 years, even if it's in a shoebox, but hopefully it's on your computer that you're keeping track of all of this documentation, because you could get audited. Most likely you won't be, but it's a good thing to keep all of those records so that you have all of this information if and when it is requested of you. Okay, so some of this stuff you may not need to share with, but it's always good to keep good records. That's probably the first rule is, and the first good policy is to keep good records so that you always have your documentation. So the forms, we already talked about it. I'm highlighting here 35OS because most of it is a one-page application that is very quick to complete. But I'm still urging you to get help from someone to review it for you. You want to get it right the first time when you submit it. That's really key. So electronic forgiveness application portal may also be provided by the participating PPP lender. I've been getting a lot of inquiries that their PPP lender has yet to send them the form and that they don't know where the portal is. So I have been directing them to the SBA.gov website, PPP forgiveness, and you can find the form with the instructions and at least start looking at the application. Okay, any questions at this point, Sujay, or anything coming up?
Yes, I have. If I submit my loan forgiveness application on time, do I have to make any payments before the SBA decides my loan forgiveness amount?
No, you do not. If it goes beyond that period that we talked about, it's probably good to check in with the SBA. But you'll start getting, trust me, you will start getting a statement if your payment is due. I wouldn't really worry about it until you start getting from probably your lender is going to send you the first coupon that your payment is due, and then you would check in with your lender to say, hey, I submitted for forgiveness and I haven't heard back yet. I think we are aware of this because it is taking us longer than usual. So don't get concerned, okay? Again, this program was supposed to provide you relief, not create more stress for you. so keep that in mind. These are unprecedented times and we are adjusting. I'm going to keep on repeating that so that you feel comforted that the SBA has your back and is trying to work with all of you, okay? And work with our resource partners. Okay, so who can use the 3508S? Is borrower may use this form if you received a PPP of $150,000 or less. SBA Form 3508S requires fewer calculations and less documentation. That is a better one to use. It does not require borrowers to show the calculations used to determine their forgiveness amount. However, SBA may request information and documents to review those calculations, which is why I suggested that you keep your documentation, but you may not even need to submit it. That's how easy forgiveness is going to be. It is a quick form that is basically more or less based on the honor system. but you have to get your calculations right and work with your lender and or your bookkeeper or the SBDC, but it's being made very easy for you to apply for forgiveness. We anticipate that more than 90% or 95% of all of these PPP loans will be forgiven. You just got to make sure that you apply and do it correctly the first time, okay? There is an appeals process, but hopefully you're not going to get to that part. But it really isn't it's really it's not that you're challenging your lender. Your lender has to be on board with you about this. It's not really, I think a lot of people are trying to bypass their lender, and it's really important that it's with their lender. Okay, so let's not even discuss this, because I'll only say only SBA loan review decisions as defined in the rule can be appealed to OHA. A PPP borrower cannot file an HOA appeal of any decision made by a lender concerning a PPP loan. The intention is that it's a collaboration when on this, okay? So let's go to the most important part that I've already been emphasizing is your resource partners. All official SBA partners offer free one-on-one counseling and free and low-cost classes. If I can mention anything that's come out of the pandemic that's good, there always has to be silver lining to every situation. It's that I believe that more small businesses have signed up with small business resource partners and have started utilizing them, because they've also started realizing that federal government and state programs, and you saw that even that San Pablo offers loans too, that it's really good to take advantage of these resources. It does require, though, that you keep that you do your taxes. It does require that you keep good books. And I think a lot of us that go into small business sometimes forget to keep our books and forget to do what's needed to run a successful businesses, which means knowing what your cash flow is and what your expenses are and what your income is, and keeping separate accounts for your business, not intermingling your personal and your business accounts. All of these things I think have come out of this, because we now realize, wow, federal government, local government can help my business. I just need to have all my ducks in a row and keep good books and have it all. And in order to do that, I need to tap into resource partners. So please take advantage of the SBDC development centers. There's actually a link that you can go to with SBDCs if you want to find a loan. You're saying, where do I start to get a small loan? You go, there's actually a link so that you can sign up into a Northern California database where they will assign to you someone to help you figure out all of the thankfully, there are a lot of opportunities for financing. And there's also the Contra Costa SBDC that is there. They have webinars. They have all sorts, and you can also get a one-on-one advisor. There's also SCORE, which stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives. They'll have like restaurateurs on their, they have all sorts of businesses and consulting, hair salons, all sorts of folks that are volunteering their time to help you out, that can be a mentor, that have already had their own business, but now they want to help others succeed. And then the women's business centers are another amazing resource. The one that comes to mind is the Ren Center, but there's also New City America. There's any others, Suji, that I'm forgetting. Centro is more for Latino businesses, right? But I think they help all minority businesses. There's also the CDFIs, Credit Development Financial Institutions like Working Solutions, Pacific Ventures that offer small loans, especially if a bank turns you down. Right. So that you're working on your credit, you can get a loan, maybe at a slightly higher rate, but you can work with some other of these organizations to help you out. I anticipate that some of these organizations are going to be getting even more funding, but what I mentioned at the beginning of this, the Community Navigator Program, our biggest challenge is that a lot of our minority community does not ask for help. Right. They seem to always borrow money from their brother or their sister or a friend, but they don't want to borrow money from an established organization. You do not have to be documented to apply for SBDCs, SCOREs, or women business centers.
Mhm.
You do have to get a tax ID number because you do have to pay taxes. That we can't escape. We must pay taxes. But in the end, I think that the pandemic has proven that paying taxes is a good thing, because then when there's a pandemic, you can get support.
Right.
And hopefully we won't have another pandemic, but we will continue to always have some sort of a disaster or a situation that prompts the federal government or the local government coming in to help our small businesses, because the small businesses are the lifeblood of our economy, and we need the small businesses like you. So please, if anything has come out of this pandemic, it's like, let's make sure that we are doing things in a way that can benefit in the long run. One, we know what our financial situation is on a day-to-day basis if we tap into using some of these resources. And two, if we need help, it's there for us, not just asking our family and friends for loans and for support.
And like
Okay.
Darlene said, I know it could be a little bit overwhelming as to knowing where to start or where to call. That's why we're here at San Pablo EDC. We work with all of these wonderful partners. If we can't do the one-on-one counseling or mentorship, we can just basically connect you and guide you so you don't feel like you're going at it alone. Because I know the first thing that's, it's like, what if I call and they don't really understand what I'm asking for or what I need? We're here. You just let us know what you're looking for, and we will connect you with someone that can help you. So that's definitely something you want to take away from this. I know it's a lot of information, but if you don't know where to start, you can call any of our partners here that are listed on Darlene's slide, or just contact us. We will connect you with them directly. So you don't have to go at it alone, for sure.
And the other thing is, if English is not your first language, and we give you so much credit for being able to talk a second language, but we know that getting this information sometimes in your own first language is preferred. So in addition to resources in Spanish, there are some other organizations that speak Chinese and Vietnamese and Thai, and especially now, thankfully with Zoom, you can get one-on-one advisors, because I think there's a lot of these organizations that are sometimes based in San Francisco as well. But Laotian too, I think there's the Laotian Center here in San Pablo.
Yeah.
And actually, if you go to the SBA website, I think that right now some of these forms and some of these tools are there in 8 different languages. So
Yes.
SBA really does try to accommodate languages and understands that this may not be your first language. So there is resources available. Okay. So additional resources. I'm amazed that SBA has done a really good job with a YouTube channel that sometimes will walk you through some of the stuff. Like, I'm going through this very quickly, but they will go through. There's always a presentation on everything, on PPP, on RRF, so that you can follow it. If you like Twitter, you can follow SBA on Twitter. You can sign up for an San Francisco newsletter. For the EASE newsletters about what's coming up. I want to mention, like, I've been getting asked what's happening with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. That is an unfolding situation, with the fact that right now, unfortunately, there's been a lawsuit and that some of the funds are being held up. Sometimes I find out about stuff in the news before I'm even able to share the news. So it's good to share up for these newsletters and be looking on the news, because sometimes some of the information comes out elsewhere than before we even have it. So it's important to be following this information. But another thing is, check out PPP information in languages other than English. I already mentioned that. Our district office is always here for you. Keep in mind that it is the Office of Disaster Assistance that is processing the EIDL loans. It is the Office of Capital Access that has been working with the lenders on the PPP. But the district office is always here as a resource, including me in both English and Spanish and Portuguese. You can email us at sfmail@sba.gov. We have a direct number where you can call and leave a message. There's our website. but also I'm giving you my number so I can be contacted directly when you feel like you're not getting heard, or you feel like you've exhausted all the resources. And I am here to respond to you and help you navigate what you need as a small business and put you in contact with the right resource. Okay, so there's my email. And that's my direct number. It's a 202 number. It is local, even though it's a Washington, D.C. number. I am here locally in the area.
Are we all set, Darlene? Okay.
I think that's all I got I went through this very quickly, but I thought there's a lot of information in this presentation, but as long as you have the presentation, I think folks can refer to it for the forgiveness stuff and know that a lot of the calculations are in there so they can look at them.
Okay, perfect. So, so I know that, as Darlene said, I don't know if there's any more questions. Let me just double check and make sure that we don't have any more questions here. So I guess there is one more. They're saying, the question is, are non-payroll costs like mortgage costs or electric bills that occurred before the covered period or our alternative covered period, but were then paid during the covered period? Okay, this is a very intense question. Or alternative payroll cover period eligible for loan forgiveness? So I guess the question is, are non-payroll costs like mortgage costs or electrical bills covered or eligible for loan forgiveness?
Well, I think you might want to put them in within, remember, you can pick the covered period that you want to select. And remember, 40% of all of those, that's like not within payroll, but you're going to select them to be within that eligible covered period. So that then, yes, okay. Now you're getting into accrual or cash type of accounting, and that is not my area of expertise. So that's where really, chances are you can find a way to have them be within the covered period. You just really need to work with your bookkeeper and or one of the SBDC staff members so that you can make sure that you can apply those during the period that you need. Okay.
Then the last question is, can a business receive, I think you sort of touched this, but maybe they want just clarification. Can a business receive full forgiveness of its loan?
You mean, okay, repeat that one more time.
I guess they're asking if they will receive like full forgiveness or just partial forgiveness. I guess that would be based on the application and how
it depends. Chances are when you applied, the intention was to get full forgiveness. So now you just need to make sure you have all your documentation so that you can justify that 60% of your expenses went to payroll and that 40% went to the remainder of all of your expenses. So the intention, and most people end up getting full forgiveness. I think it's just, you need to go back and look at your figures on your loan. And again, I'm encouraging you to work with somebody from SBDC or from one of these organizations. They have people on staff to help you make sure that you have your information so that you can apply for forgiveness correctly. In most cases, you will get forgiveness on the entire loan. That is really the intention of SBA. It's really, though, it was trying to offer a quick way for folks to get a loan, and if you had to pay it back, it's 1%. But of course, the ideal situation is that this becomes a grant for you. And hopefully when you applied for it, it was the intention of knowing that you were going to be utilizing all of the funds for that 60-40 to help retain a lot of your employees, including yourself, to pay for yourself. And then for the other part to help with the mortgage and the rent and all of these other expenses.
Okay, that was our last question. And so I would like to thank Darlene and SBA for sharing this great information and resources. And thank you to all of you who had joined us today. If you want to follow up with our presenter today, her contact information is here on the slide, and also my information if you would like to reach out and need some referrals to partners such as SCORE, SBDC, and you need one-on-one, coaching and mentorship. And yeah, so I guess that's pretty much it for today. Again, thank you everyone for joining, and please visit our website. We will have a recording of this. If you would like to revisit any of the slides, we will also include the presentation slides if there's something that you want to review again in terms of the forms and on the information that Darlene said. That's really more detailed, but it would have been too exhausting to go over it just because it's so much information. So we will have it on our website. So please feel free, or you can contact me directly and I can email it to you. So I hope everyone has a wonderful day today. And thank you again, Darlene, for making the time today to provide us with all of this great information.
I hope that every small business in San Pablo is signing up to get a counselor. You know, I find that it's a lot of the businesses that don't need counselors that end up with counselors. A lot of our white community, I see them all signing up for advisors at SBA and SBDC. And yet it's our community that needs it the most because we're new to business. We're not maybe familiar with navigating how to do business in the United States, that don't sign up for these services. So Suji, our goal should be that all of the small businesses in San Pablo sign up for these services.
Yes,
they're free.
I do agree with you. And again, I said, please don't feel like, and no question is not a good question. If you don't know where to start, give us a call. We will connect you. Just because you won't know unless, you know, you reach out to us, and you know, we are here to help. So please definitely give us a call. And again, we do have other language speakers in our team. So if you speak another language aside from English, it might be Spanish, Chinese, or you know, Farsi. We do have other language speakers that can help you and to answer your questions. So again, thank you. And this was a really great presentation. Thank you, Darlene.
Thank you, Sujay, for having me.
Yes, we look forward to many more workshops like this that provide really important information to our small business owners in West Contra Costa. So thank you.
Okay. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Alrighty. Bye-bye.